listening to Sports Radio Detroit.
Welcome to Grave Discussions. I'm your host, Barnabas.
And I am your co-host, Samael. Welcome to episode 66. Playing with dolls, really? That's the name of the episode?
Yes. And we are going to be playing around with some dolls today while we discuss the must-see killer doll movies before you go see the new Child's Play. By the time you're hearing this episode, you may actually have already seen Child's Play. If you did, hey, let us know what you thought about it. We're going to be checking it out this weekend as well and giving you our full review of that next weekend. But this go around, we're going to be talking about some awesome movies, including, I'll spoil one, Dead Silence.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
I just watched it like a month ago, actually.
I watch it at least like once a year if I can. It's great.
But I really like the color grading in that. It makes it seem so fucking depressing.
Yeah. We'll talk about that and more, though, a little bit later on in this show. But first and foremost, we do have to give a shout out to our gracious host network, Sports Radio Detroit.
And you can find them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at SRD Sports Radio Detroit, not Detroit Sports Radio. Got to make that distinction every week.
Of course, it is an important distinction. So go check them out, guys. sportsradiodetroit.com as well to find all of our shit on there. And before we move into our first little segment here, we do just have a quick sponsored break. Here at Grave Discussions, we know that addiction can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Let the Detox Helpline help you break your addiction to drugs and alcohol. Call the addiction specialist now at the Detox and Treatment Helpline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
They're always available for you, and if you have private insurance, they specialize in finding you the right treatment. Give them a call at 1-800-213-9257. That is 800-213-9257.
All right, Samael. So a lot of recent developments in the world of horror over like this past week. Like literally the day after we recorded last week's episode, episode 65, which you can go check out now to hear our thoughts about Creepshow, the new one on Shudder. But like the day after I saw this shit, like this first article here. So tell them what it's about.
So Blumhouse, surprise, is remaking Black Christmas, and they dropped a bombshell on us because it's being released super soon, this December. So I guess it's been in the works. It makes sense for them to remake Bob Clark's classic again, because while the 06 remake was okay for like Gorehounds, it just really didn't have like the same ear and feel of like the original. So I mean, I guess I trust Blumhouse. They did all right with the Halloween, sequel, and usually Blumhouse, honestly, I don't care if you're a fanboy, they're hit or miss with a lot of stuff like Mercy Black and Truth or Dare, so like, and Curse of La Llorona.
Even a lot of the Into the Dark movies.
Treehouse.
Yep. I mean, yeah, you're right. This one, though, I don't know, seems promising.
It does.
I mean, it's a reboot, but it seems like it's going to be a passionate reboot. Just came out as a complete surprise, though, just really like out of left field. But Imogen Poots from Green Room is attached to star. And then also, not in this article, but recently announced, Cary Elwes, if that's how you say his last name, I'm not sure, from Saw, he also is going to be in the Black Christmas reboot. So, pretty interesting.
The new one's kind of different, though, from what I'm reading.
Yeah, it's because it's basically going to turn into like, the killer's after these girls, but the girls know how to defend themselves, and they're not going to like take any shit.
This is one of those kind of destroy the patriarchy movies.
I suppose so, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a very common trend though now.
Yeah, that's why I'm mad, because
trendy.
it's a trend. Like, what was like the most prominent one? Like fucking Treehouse?
Revenge, it was a very prominent one. It was a really good movie though. It was like in my top 5 last year, but still.
the difference between like those good movies and movies that are just riding the wave. That's why I like them more so than like Destroy the Patriarchy. But like when everyone just rides that wave, it's like, all right, can we just remake Black Christmas?
Yeah.
They already remade it. It's called The Sleeper.
Yeah, but it's still a decent idea, I suppose. I just like really get into this territory where it's like you're crossing the line here with another reboot, basically.
I feel like that too.
So we'll see how it turns out, but let's move on. That one is coming out December 13th in theaters. Okay. The next one is yet another, well, not a reboot, but continuation of a franchise. Amityville Horror prequel, Amityville 1974, announced and going to be in production this year.
We just had an Amityville movie 2 years ago, back when I was still injured.
Yeah.
And that one was all right. It was like about this kid. He's like a vegetable, but then he gets possessed.
Wait, what kind of vegetable?
Like a coma vegetable.
Like a broccoli or... Oh.
He's more like a stepped on raisin.
Oh, man.
So he's he's like in the bed and he's just like in a coma, but then like he gets up, he starts walking around and ends up because he's possessed. And it's like...
that's why it's called The Awakening.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't bad, but it was like... that was to possession movies, and it was like the same thing as the Possession of Hannah Grace, basically, that type of feel, like, oh no, there's a ghost in the house, what are we gonna do? Oh no, it's the guy who's not the ghost and he's a person. It's like, all right, cool.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this one, however, appears to be based on what actually happened before all the hauntings and shit, talking about the murders, but it's still... sounds like it's going to have some kind of supernatural, overtones to it. So might still be approaching that stereotypical cliched haunted house movie possibly, but we'll see. If they make it more true crime, I think it might be pretty cool, but we'll find out. November, I believe, is the official start of principal photography. So this last article is another one, pretty divisive here, yeah. Paranormal Activity is going to be coming back, just announced by Paramount and Blumhouse. So
yeah, I don't care. This is I really don't care.
Yeah. So yeah, they were supposed to have ended it with the Ghost Dimension. Of course,
was that 4?
No, that was 6 or something.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah, you're right. With the fucking,
because there was that the one in Mexico or whatever.
Yeah, and then the one where we actually see Toby or whatever.
Yeah,
where he's look, he's walking up the stairs and he's a ghost. All right,
and I think
every fucking movie's the same.
And I think the former one was the 5th one. So yeah, but I don't know. I also then later saw some headlines about this specific announcement, and the word reboot was thrown in there. So I'm not even sure what to think now. I don't know if it's just a reboot or a sequel or a prequel.
If you read it in the comments, just ignore it, because if it's not in the article and people are just
no, that was
throwing
the headline of the news article.
Was it?
Yeah, not this one, but I saw some other ones.
Yeah, because this one was
where it said reboot, and I was like,
maybe they mean they're rebooting the franchise because it's been dead for 4 years.
Yeah, possibly. I really don't know if it's a reboot of the first movie. That's ridiculous. But
I mean, it just came out in 07? 08?
Yeah, something like that.
I remember I saw it in theaters because it came out in theaters a year after it actually came out. And that one was straight, but the fucking...
Mm-hmm. Oh, it was revolutionary.
The next fucking 5 of them, it's just... It gets repetitive after a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's because it's really all kind of the same thing, when shit really got crazy in parts. That was cool.
Yeah, but then they got into it's witches and there's a cult. And there always is, bro. We don't care anymore.
Well, speaking of which, let's get into the trailers.
Okay.
So we've got officially now the Dr. Sleep trailer. Now, this one's coming out November 8th in theaters. Okay, and this is the sequel to The Shining, but there are apparently lots of differences between the book and movie. I haven't read the book, so people really just think of it as Kubrick's The Shining.
Yeah, that's what this is the sequel.
This is the sequel to Kubrick's The Shining.
I read that in multiple places. They're this is not the book sequel, even though it has the same name.
Even apparently the book of Dr. Sleep already seems like it's going to be quite a bit different from the movie. So, but it still looks pretty good. It's Mike Flanagan directing, the guy who did The Haunting of Hill House. So already he's riding the train, you know.
Oh yeah.
So he's already got a good track record. You can very much tell if you've seen The Haunting of Hill House. This movie has like the same color palette and everything, all the same kind of shots, but it looks good. Ewan McGregor is playing Danny Torrance.
That's the thing I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
I haven't watched him in a movie since like when Anakin burned in the lava,
Yeah.
I think.
No, dude, if you've ever been Obi-Wan Kenobi in your life, then you're just automatically going to be a fantastic actor
Oh yeah, I think so.
forever, you know. So I'm excited to see him with his American accent.
Oh god.
Pretty good though, pretty solid. But yeah, he's playing Danny, and he's going to be like coming back into his use of The Shining when he meets this little girl who also has the gift, and there's like a psychic vampire cult. It's just very expansive in comparison to like The Shining, which was so isolated. So obviously the themes are already going to be very different. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Fuck it.
So what's this next one, Sam?
Okay, Ready or Not, and it releases August 23rd. So basically, this chick gets married to this guy, and then, you know, they go to this like mansion place, whatever, that that his family owns.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, we gotta play hide and seek. Oh, how do I win? You gotta stay hidden till dawn. And then they show the whole movie in the trailer,
Yeah.
and it's basically the family hunting the bride.
Mm-hmm. It does look good though, I will say. I just wish they didn't give away so much in the trailer. I don't understand why that's done, but
They showed most of the
Okay.
action. Like,
well, they just revealed like a bunch of shit. Like there's a ritual and stuff. They
Yeah.
saved you from that, you
oops.
know. But the movie still looks good. It's got Samara Weaving from The Babysitter on there, which is pretty cool. I like her. I like seeing her perform. So, you know, I'm interested. And the last trailer that we have for you guys is a very interesting one. It's releasing sometime this year. It's the Banana Splits movie.
Oh, I don't know how to feel about that. It had the same vibes as Puka.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, seems kid friendly, but meh, nothing about like, unless we see kids getting murdered, I'm not interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, cause no horror movies ever really want to go there unless they're like exploitation films.
Mhm.
But I think that's what makes a film exploitation. Like, if it's just a horror movie and then like something happens to someone that doesn't traditionally happen in a horror movie, like a kid gets killed
Mhm.
or like a dog gets raped or something, you know, like,
Okay.
and then they're like, oh, it's exploitation. Like, all right.
Yeah, essentially, because, you know, then you're stretching the boundaries of what is acceptable, I guess. But I don't know if this movie's going to go to those lengths. It's supposedly very violent and like bloody and shit though, so that's cool, I guess. You know,
I don't know, like, they cancel the TV show and then the
Mhm.
actors, I guess, go crazy.
Yeah, which this is actually based off of a real TV show. It's the Banana Splits Adventure Hour or something. It was like a real TV show in the 60s that went on for like a few years, and then it just kind of went away. And now they're making a movie about it, but the original thing was like a kids variety show. Like, it wasn't horror really at all. The creepiness was just in those like giant like outfits basically.
And that's a
You know?
fucking kids show.
Yeah, apparently. So pretty interesting. I'm excited to see it, kind of, just because it's a sci-fi movie, by the way, so that's why I'm like kind of hesitant, but it's coming out sometime this year, so
Oof.
yeah. Let's move on here, guys. We've got a stacked lineup of awesome movies, and this next one actually is really exciting. Just a cult classic for real, and we're going to be discussing it in the Cult Corner. All right, ghouls, welcome back.
Hey, what about the boils?
And the boils, welcome back as well.
Jeez. You want to be all inclusive, huh?
Of course. So, everybody, we have a real relevant cult classic on this week's episode. It is, of course, the 1988 slasher Child's Play.
Not even really a cult classic. This is just a cinema classic in general, I would say. Like, everyone knows Chucky. Everyone.
Mm.
You never go, hey, you know Chucky? Like the killer doll?
Yeah.
No, never happened. You know Chucky? Who the fuck is Chucky? Like,
That's what I love about horror too, you know, even though it's very like niche for a lot of reasons, a lot of the icons and all that kind of stuff they're really more widespread, you know. You see them in pop culture everywhere.
oh yeah.
And Chucky definitely became that. He wasn't the first killer doll, but he was just the most iconic, I think, really due to like just his origin story and of course Brad Dourif.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's so fucking funny too in like the later movies, and
Yeah,
he's just a witty doll. He's like basically if Freddy was a doll. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, yeah, but you know, even Freddy was like more of a a nightmare creature in the first movie as opposed to like this witty demon or whatever.
oh yeah,
You know, but Chucky was kind of supposed to be funny. I mean, iconic moment in this movie where
when she's like,
she threatens to throw him into the fire.
"You fucking bitch!" And he starts fucking shaking, and
Yeah,
it's just fucking hilarious.
I think he calls her. I don't remember exactly what else he calls her. I think he calls her like the C word.
Oh, wow.
You know,
What's the C word, Barnabas?
Well, I'll tell you, kids. If you flip to page, I don't know, something in the dictionary.
It rhymes with bunt, and it starts with a C.
Okay, he calls her that. We're quoting from the movie, and you know that was just fucking hilarious to me because he didn't care at all.
I swear, bro. Like, I mean, he's a serial killer, but
Yeah,
I mean, the movie starts off like some serial killers being chased, and then we see him like performing a ritual on a doll, and we're like, is this really where this is going?
yeah,
And then all of a sudden, the serial killer is dead, and he's a doll now. His spirit went into the doll.
yeah, and just very coincidentally gets. Well, I mean, I guess he would have been given to any kid, but somehow ends up in the hands of like the most annoying cinema child I've ever seen in a movie.
No,
oh my
no,
god,
there's the kid from the Babadook.
I don't know, man.
Andy's just naive as fuck.
Yeah,
Chucky, when you me
every time I watch this movie, I no lie, like kind of want to like strangle him sometimes.
Yeah, I've never wanted to punch a child until I watched Child's
Oh
Play.
man, but
I was a kid
hey.
when I saw it too, so it would have been a fair fight. 6-year-old versus he would have been
Yeah,
like
exactly.
18 at the time. So.
I mean, hey, he's older than us. I'm pretty sure now.
Isn't
Alex
he-
Vincent.
Isn't he in
I love you,
the
though.
Cult of Chucky? Isn't
Yeah,
he
yeah, that's him.
reprising his role as Andy?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he's stuck with it this entire time, man. You know, so props to him. I mean, he's an icon. We love the guy.
Oh yeah.
But man, you fucking killed it in this movie, Alex. Okay,
Not in a good way.
I mean, in a good way, I guess that's the character he was trying to be. You know, but
I think he was just being himself.
yeah,
A lot of kids are themselves
man.
in movies.
yeah.
Like, just be yourself, Timmy. You just be
I guess so.
yourself. Just talk like how you would talk to me, Timmy.
Do you think Haley Joel Osment talks like that, like he did in The Sixth Sense and stuff?
I don't know. I just don't
That's,
like
that's
him.
a whole other
He looks
discussion.
like a giant child nowadays,
Oh
too.
man.
He looks like a fucking swamp person.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you just speak in your mind. I respect that. I respect
Thank you.
But hey, no, Alex Vincent was great. Of course, Catherine Hicks as the mom, a very central character as well, and really kind of represented that, you know, single mom struggle, I think, pretty well in this movie, which is an underlooked fact, but she did a good job.
Seventh heaven, when I see the happy face. That's the first thing I thought when I watched this, because like, I first watched this movie when I was like 5,
Mm-hmm.
and then I didn't watch it for years, and I watched it again when I was like maybe 10, 11, and then I saw her in here. I was like, I never knew this was the chick from Seventh Heaven, the mom, and I was like, oh boy. It just kind of like, I never actually watched Seventh Heaven, like, hey, she's from Child's Play. Like, it never occurred to me.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you know what? She did a good job. And a lot of I mean, hey, I would never really expect to see Aubrey Plaza in like the reboot, but she's fucking in there. So, you know, that's cool. But yeah, no, everybody pretty much is great. I always forget that Chris Sarandon's in this movie.
Oh yeah, he's the cop.
Yeah, but he rounds out an all-star cast, and they all just do a really good job. I mean, none of the acting's really that corny or anything like that. And the plot of this movie is awesome. You know, it was very innovative for the time. Fucking voodoo serial killer goes into a doll that goes crazy.
Yeah, no one ever really did that. Now that we can spoil it, The Prodigy was basically Child's Play, except instead of throwing his spirit into a doll, he threw it into a child.
Yeah, which is what Chucky was trying to do ultimately all that time.
Oh yeah,
So this was like the successful Child's Play.
basically. Can you imagine if Charles Lee Ray got into Andy?
Damn, that would be crazy.
I mean, eventually he would have like got shot again and then have to do it again.
Mhm.
This time he'd like be a toaster, and then we got Asylum doing like a Sharknado type movie with like a killer toaster, and
Chucky Nado.
oh my god, fuck that.
Anyway,
I'd rather be boiled
he has
alive.
like a cult now, so it's very interesting to think about where Chucky has ended up. at least like story wise, as opposed to the first movie.
Yeah, it's
But
crazy because now there are like 3,000 Chuckies.
yeah, still introducing the whole voodoo thing early on, I think was a great idea. It just set it up for like, hey, you're gonna get a fucking crazy movie, you know?
And like the whole voodoo thing made it so like this is not going to be the only movie because when he's like about to die, he could just like send his spirit somewhere else. Like,
True, yeah. So I don't know. I liked that aspect of it. I thought that was cool. The deaths were actually quite good. I mean, the very first one where he pushes Maggie out of the window. Well, I guess he bonk her with the hammer. And
yeah,
she,
he
falls
does.
out. But that was cool. It was like slow motion. She was falling to her death, and then she like crashes.
Then like
So,
they started painting Andy as the possible killer
yeah,
because they found those shoe prints and they're like, well, who do these shoe prints look like?
Mhm.
It's like they look like they're the size of a doll. It's not a child's. What the fuck? There's
Yeah.
a difference.
quite innovative again because, again, I don't think it was necessarily the first movie to do it, but after this movie, like all of the other killer doll movies use that trope.
Yeah.
You know, it basically became a trope after that, so that was cool.
What was really weird to me is how Andy's mom found Chucky. She bought him from like a junkie in an alley for like $100 or something.
I would not do that. You don't know what that junkie has done to that poor doll.
Yeah.
The box was listen, the box was open.
It was.
You don't know what happened.
He might have just nutted in his hair and just
Oof.
styled it like right after.
I mean, I guess Chucky would probably have killed his ass.
He probably would have. So he was just waiting to be sold because he didn't want to like
Yeah.
get inside the fucking body of some homeless motherfucker.
Yeah, no, he wanted a kid, so I guess, he played it smart. He didn't kill him no matter what he may have done because he wanted to get inside that kid, I don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I do, but
He wanted to steal the kid's body.
of course.
That might have worked a lot better, not have been as suspect sounding.
Hey, I'm just telling it how I see it,
Oh yeah.
But no, I mean, the movie did so much for the horror genre, and Chucky very quickly became an instant classic.
He did immediately.
Not only was it a voodoo-possessed doll, but it was a foul-mouthed voodoo-possessed doll. That was just immediate franchise potential right there.
Oh yeah. And like you said, everyone knew him. So when I was like 5, my dad's like, "Hey, you wanna watch Chucky?" And I was like, "What the fuck is Chucky?" He's like, "Look, I show you." And he recorded it off of like HBO on a VHS, and he showed it to me, and I was like, "What the fuck is this shit?" Like,
and it gave a perfect opportunity for like 20 to 30 somethings to dress their kids up as Chucky.
oh yeah.
Which is important, because I want to
why
do that
not?
for my kid. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna dress my kid up as like Shaq.
Okay. From the Genie movie.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
exactly. Was it Kazam?
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
Kazam.
Oh my god.
The best movie of all time.
Next week in the cult corner. Kazam.
I remember on Shriek, if you know what I did last Friday the 13th, they're like, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And she's like, "Kazam." And he's like, "It's not a horror movie." He's like, "Well, you haven't seen Shaq act." Like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was a
Jabs.
That was a good one. But so yeah, what's your favorite part about Child's Play, real quick?
Child's Play, I like where like he like it was known that he was like borderline indestructible because they set him on fire, they beat the shit out of him,
Yeah.
and they shot him, and he was still like "Brrr." That. And I knew there was gonna be a sequel when I saw that. Like, of course there already was because I watched it like years after it came out, but I was like, there has to be a sequel to this. And I'm like, there is sequel. I show you all of them. I'm like, oh fuck.
Oh, all of them. Whoa. It's like discovering Leprechaun for the first time.
I went to go see Bride of Chucky in theaters, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure if I've ever seen any of them in theaters, but I don't know. But yeah, crazy how it ended up. I mean, a lot of them just ended up going straight to video after that for some reason. It was very strange.
Seed of Chucky
Very
was
strange.
in Seed of Chucky was in theaters. I went to go see that one
Yeah.
too.
But that was almost like the first kind of soft, kind of not reboot, but
Continuation.
just continuation. Really, after like a period though.
Yeah, because Bride was still like brutal. It had some nice deaths, but it was mostly like a horror comedy.
Yeah.
First one was like a mystery, not really mystery for us, but for the characters because they didn't know like the doll was alive.
Yeah.
And then it became like part 2, it was still serious. Part 3, it was serious. And then all of a sudden, when like I'm guessing it was Miramax or maybe Paramount Pictures or Dimension Films. It's one of those 3. I guess they bought the rights to Chucky and he became this big Hollywood entity.
Yeah.
I mean, rightfully so. I mean, Chucky deserved like a big Hollywood movie, but
Mhm.
like the fact that they gave him a wife and like
That ugly ass kid.
turned her into a doll, like it's just like really.
Yeah.
I think shark jumping is the proper term for
It's been a
doing what
while.
they did. It's been a while, yes. Shark jumping bullshit.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I mean, they definitely went in a very strange route, but usually these bigger horror franchises tend to do that. The nice thing about Child's Play is that it really kind of keeps the same narrative pretty much throughout,
Until Cult.
Yeah. Well,
Then it's like, guess what? Everything you thought, you didn't. Like, oh, shit.
yeah, essentially. I mean, it's still, like, considers the previous movies, though.
Oh, yeah, but it's just like, the whole premise is completely different because, like, before there was one Chucky, one Tiffany, and then their son.
Oh, yeah. It takes a complete, like, U-turn, basically,
You wonder what happened to their son?
Yeah, kind of.
I really do.
Because he was just so, like, weird,
Yeah, he was just like
it was
this,
immediately
like,
interesting.
initially they didn't know if it was their son or their daughter, and he was British. Like, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking.
I know, but no, going back though to that last scene, that is honestly probably one of my favorite things, like in horror, is when you first see him revealed as that like burnt Chucky, and he's got that like almost like grimace on his face, and he's like, going after him. I was like,
that's
damn.
my favorite part of the first one. That's the shit of nightmares.
Yeah.
And then in the second one, when he was in the factory and they stabbed him with all those like. They stuck all those arms in him and shit, and he was still like, "I'm gonna get you, you fucking bitch!" Like,
even the third one was pretty good. That was the one at the military academy.
That's probably like my favorite one.
Yeah, I really liked that one when I was a kid.
So did I. That's the one that's the second one my dad showed me because the order I watched them in is 2, 3, and then 1.
That's weird.
Yeah, because I saw the second one on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Basically, like the same premise as the first one, except like. In this one, like, he's trying to convince people that Chucky's alive.
Mm-hmm.
First one was more like, let me not tell people that he's alive.
Yeah. I feel like the first one, though, still tonally was pretty different, but because, again, it was like a bit more of that, like, serious one. We don't even hear, like, Brad Dourif as Chucky and like until halfway into the movie or something like that.
Yeah.
So very, very kind of deliberately slower build up into all of that, and we got a lot of that slasher type stalking and stuff, and that's why it was a slasher movie.
Yeah.
Which was very cool. Like a lot of times you just see it from first person perspective, which was awesome. We don't usually see that in
It was kind of
a
comedic
lot of these slasher
that it
movies,
was like first person of a doll though.
yeah, even though it made you think it was Andy for a minute,
For no reason though, because we saw him transfer his spirit to the doll
right
at the beginning.
Yeah, just really just inside the world of the story.
I felt like it was
kind of weird,
kind of stupid for Chucky to kill Maggie when he knew Andy was going to get blamed, and Andy wouldn't fare well for him in juvenile hall because I guess it could, because then Chucky could take over his body and then just
I think
kill.
that's why he was trying to do it,
and then just kill all the kids at the juvenile.
Yeah, or I mean, he could just have killed indiscriminately if they thought it was Andy, until he was able to just basically take him for himself and just, take him away somewhere where they can't find him. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think about, like his logic, because he was kind of like a smart serial killer.
He was.
Yeah.
But not really.
Not really, because he was the doll.
Yeah, he could have picked anything to be. But I guess in the moment after you get shot and you can like transfer your soul, you would.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I guess. Can he do that with everything though? Can it?
Or isn't he like, gotta find a kid?
Yeah, like he was just like, hey.
He may not be able to into like.
Dambala.
He may not be able to into an adult because maybe they're like too strong or something like that.
I think he can enter an adult if he wants.
Well, I mean, with their consent.
You saw Tiffany took what's her name's body.
Oh yeah.
What was her
the main? I don't
Jennifer
remember
Tilly.
Jennifer
Tilly played herself.
Yeah.
In Seed of Chucky, and then Jennifer Tilly ended up switching places with her, and then the kid also had a body, and then Chucky came back as a doll and like attacked them when like they opened up the package at the end of it. So I don't know how all of a sudden in like Cult of Chucky that they're cool again, when in Curse of Chucky it didn't even pay attention to like his son or Tiffany or any of that shit. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like it's weird, but still.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It all gets very kind of messy and slightly confusing, but interesting to kind of, compare where it ended up and where it began. Because the first movie, definitely a cult classic for a reason, just a phenomenal slasher. But we do have to move on, guys. We're still going to be talking about dolls, though, in our main segment, but just stay tuned. We've got some quick sponsored messages, and then we'll be back.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Bryant. Catch me, E, and Brian on Pearson's Piece, 8 to 9 a.m. on Sports Radio Detroit Network, CRB, on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere else you can find podcasting.
Hey, Samael.
Hey, Barnabas, what's up?
Oh, not much. Have you ever written a book?
No, but I've written a musical.
Oh, well, you can become a published author with Dorrance Publishing, the nation's oldest publishing services company.
Aha, I hear countless authors have trusted Dorrance for nearly 100 years to bring their books to the market.
Their professional team will edit your text, design your book pages, and create an appealing, eye-catching custom cover. Plus, their authors benefit from a custom book promotion marketing campaign that makes your book available where people buy books.
So, make this free call right now to claim your free author's guide to publishing. Do not wait another day. Take one step closer to realizing your dream of becoming a published author.
And seeing your name in print.
Aha! You've already written a book. Next thing to do is make this free call now to Dorrance Publishing and get your free guide to publishing. Call right now.
The number is 1-800-213-9259. Again, 1-800-213-9259. Welcome back, fiends. So in this week's main segment, in light of the Child's Play reboot, whatever you want to call it, coming out this weekend, we thought we'd share with you guys some of our must-watch, essential killer doll movies. Now, these might be pretty obvious to a lot of you. However, we might also have horror fans who are kind of new to the genre, or people just checking out the podcast who don't really watch horror movies that much, but have a passive interest, so this is really just for anybody to kind of, take reference from. And we do have a few honorable mentions as well, but yeah, some of our essential killer doll movies. Samael, what's the first one?
The first one is probably, besides Chucky, my favorite killer doll movie, Dead Silence.
Yes.
And I know there's dolls and Puppet Master and Doll Man and demonic toys, but I feel like Dead Silence is just way better than all of them because, really the dolls aren't really, the central focus point. It was just, the supernatural element behind them, which was Mary Shaw.
Yeah.
I think I wrote Beware the Stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls.
Yeah. That was a cleverly concocted nursery rhyme that was perfectly creepy.
At least it was better than Sickle Once, Sickle Twice.
God. No, Dead Silence actually had a good backstory to it, Yeah, they spent some time on it, but it wasn't too excessive. You got just enough of why Mary Shaw is the way that she is and everything. But really the focus are the dolls, and spoiler alert, as we learned, she is one herself. So that was pretty cool.
Dun, dun. And you can't scream if you see her because she'll rip your fucking tongue out.
Correct. Yeah, and that was a cool thing too. And you know what? I'm gonna admit it. I think she's scary as fuck. And that was one of the big drawing factors too. Yeah, there were some jump scares, but dude, when the guy goes after his wife down in that little crawl space or whatever,
yeah,
and Mary Shaw is there, that's a classic scare, in my opinion.
I thought the color palette too made this movie seem super hopeless. It was just this grayish blue the whole time, no matter what scene. Daytime was always gloomy and shit, and it was just depressing. And, his wife got killed, and then they were blaming him for it, and he's like, "It was the doll. We got a package the other day."
Yeah,
okay.
So I mean, yeah, that was kind of a tropey, sort of intro to it, but it was cool. When we saw her face or whatever, that was pretty dope. It wasn't too corny. It was actually pretty realistic almost.
Yeah, it wasn't really corny at all. The score too in this movie was probably one of my favorite things.
Yeah. I mean, I know we talk about atmosphere a lot, but
This movie is
this movie fucking had it.
This movie's all atmosphere.
Yeah. The score is insanely good. Just really dreadful and just creepy throughout the entire thing, pretty much. Got that, like, it's just like a pale blue palette.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's across the entire movie.
Literally, like I really noticed it last time I watched it, which was like a month or a month and a half ago, and like I was just like, damn, bro, why do I feel so down? Like,
Yeah. No, it's great. The use of the dolls is pretty cool as well. But again, even in that intro, it's kind of tropey, as well. They don't have a kid, which is kind of different, but it's still like this doll just gets delivered to them. They get it somehow, almost supernaturally, and begins this whole chain of events. But it was cool. Ryan Quanten was like a pretty good protagonist, I thought. Not that great. He was sort of like moody and shit.
I mean, his wife just got killed.
Yeah, and he's going after this insane ghost.
What other movie have we seen that fucker in? He looks so familiar.
He was in True Blood. He played Suki's brother.
He was in something else that I saw, but
yeah, he was probably in some more movies. So yeah, I mean, that movie was great, dude. It was just superbly creepy and a good example of how you do this like spanning story in a paranormal movie really well. So that movie was cool. Now, this next movie is a lot more isolated than something like Dead Silence, and kind of your like stereotypical people pull over on the side of the road on a dark and stormy night and find this weird abandoned house. That's been happening since almost the advent of cinema.
yeah.
But it's dolls.
Yes, and I just had to watch this one last night because I never watched it. I didn't expect it to be what it was. I thought it was just going to be like same thing as like Dead Silence, like a town legend, and then people go and explore the house filled with like weird antique dolls and they start killing people. But it kind of was like The Damned on, Netflix. Like, people pull over on this rainy day to this house, and now there's an old guy and his wife, and they're doll makers, and then there's a big dude who's like a kid at heart, and he's like, dolls are real, or whatever the fuck, toys.
Yeah.
And like, I think the moral of this fucking movie was like, don't grow up. Like,
yeah.
Don't ever leave the kid in you behind. Like,
something like that, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the messages in a lot of these are sort of different, but there are some prominent themes that kind of persist throughout all of these sorts of movies, and one of the big ones is like childhood and not growing up, etc., etc. Child's Play, kind of the same thing. I mean, it focused on Andy, obviously, so we see the story from his perspective, and we get the whole thing of not believing in the child just because you think it's in their imagination, that kind of thing. How many crimes went unsolved because nobody believed a child. So, it's the same kind of thing, except this movie takes it in the form of that claustrophobic single house, where something is going on.
And it was kind of a cheese fest too. Like,
Yeah.
the way the dolls moved and like the deaths, like where that chick was getting her head banged into the wall and blood was coming out, but she had no scratches on her.
Yeah.
Like, the 80s.
I mean, the makeup, like practical effects, were not that great all the time, and I think the way that they used the camera sometimes was just not that inventive. Like that scene,
kind of wacky.
Like that scene exactly.
Yeah, when like it barely even made a noise when her head bounced off the wall too.
It just didn't look like her head hit the wall.
Yeah, and it didn't at all.
That's really it. So, but so it's got that cheesy kind of pass to it, because the atmosphere is still there. If it's a dark, stormy night, I'll watch any like horror movie.
Oh yeah,
straight up. So, I mean, there's that, but the 80s style cinematography was also quite good. The end of the 80s, so actually a year later, was Child's Play.
Oh,
so probably some inspiration there, but
they might. I don't know. A year later, Child's Play came out, but they definitely worked on it like
yeah, probably
for a minute before that, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know how long they were working on Dolls, but also a classic, just really gets kind of overshadowed by Child's Play due to like the proximity of their releases.
I think so.
But Dolls is kind of a classic. The thing that really separates it is that the villain just isn't there. It's a bunch of these dolls, and it's this old weird couple. so not quite equal to Charles Lee Ray.
No, not at all.
So, but I mean, did you like anything else specifically about this movie?
Honestly, for me, it was kind of just like the atmosphere and the fact it was killer dolls. I mean, other than that, like, I can understand why this movie wasn't like a giant hit, like,
yeah,
there was no fucking Chucky screaming, "You fucking bitch!" Like, so.
I mean, but the aspect of the killer dolls is there very prominently.
Oh yeah,
because that's pretty much all the movie is. So, from that perspective, it is, in my opinion, one of the quintessential kind of killer doll movies.
I think so.
But next up is arguably one that I would say, people would take over Dolls, Puppet Master. 2 years after Dolls.
Oh, wow.
Released in 89, yeah.
So right after Chucky.
Yep.
Man, what was up with these fucking killer doll movies at the time?
That was the trend, I guess. But drawing inspiration, I'm sure, from the others, but taking an even weirder twist with it, because it's full moon, so, they like have to. But making it this like Nazi Egyptian fucking alchemy magic origin story with this old puppeteer. It was just very weird right off the bat, but became an instant classic, really.
I think it did, and I think it's like really underrated, and I think it's like undervalued because, like, I mean, what's it, Full Moon Productions, they made that one, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So, like, I mean, none of their stuff really made it, like, huge, They're all really cult movies, like, Subspecies and all that stuff that Full Moon did. So, like, I don't think Puppet Master got the recognition that it did, because I think the premise was also too complicated, like, Nazi general voodoo witchcraft that brings the dolls back to life.
Yeah.
And, the kills were pretty brutal, so, like, we're at the late 80s, so no one really cared about splatter or gore films anymore, because, like, the 80s really kind of milked that with all the slashers that are like post Friday the 13th,
it definitely got its own kind of significant niche, like, in the horror community, I would say. But yeah, it's not like super out there like Chucky is or anything. But,
no.
I mean, Blade and Pinhead and the Leech Woman and all those guys, they still have a place in horror. I think of the more invested horror fans, it's still a pretty memorable and beloved franchise. So,
agreed. That's about it.
Okay, yeah. And the last one that we have is 1979's, actually, so the earliest one out of these. There is one, actually two that are even earlier than that, but Tourist Trap, I feel like, pretty important as well. 1979. And, I mean, this one didn't even, like, come out on the face of it as, like, a killer doll movie.
No.
It was, like, these psychic... Well, the dolls weren't even psychic. The guy was, like, psychic or some shit.
Yeah, and he was a weirdo. He lied about having, like, a evil twin brother. It was just his other personality or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, but this one still had that, like, 70s style cinematography, almost kind of blending into the 80s style thing, because I think you can still consider it a slasher almost.
Oh yeah, kind of had the same like feel as like Savage Weekend, if you remember that one.
Yeah, kind of. But this one was cool because it had that sort of supernatural psychic element to it, almost kind of reminiscent of like if Friday the 13th Part 7 was just about killer dolls. Like, that's how I feel about it. But I do love this movie, honestly. It's just really unconventional, but it's still got, the typical group of like college age kids that get lost at this tourist trap. But it's just that like one isolated incident kind of a thing, almost reminiscent of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a way.
Yeah, I would agree on that. It's I think it's more like the grittiness than anything else of this movie, because like I felt like the setting was like super like fucking creepy, like that, just especially at the beginning when that dude was like just being killed and you didn't even know what the fuck was going on. He's just in that dirty ass like house, I guess you want to call it, and it just give you that like hopeless feeling. Like, can you imagine just being at this abandoned place and then you just start getting like murdered by some unseen force? You'd be like, what the fuck did I stumble into?
Yeah, and then I mean when he was showing them and he was like, oh well, this is like the love of my life who I turned into a doll or whatever. I was like, all right, well, thanks, man. I think we'll hit the next town.
So that's the direction this movie went.
All right. But it was pretty cool though. Anyway, it was kind of low key morbid, which I liked.
I think
Yeah.
it was pretty high key morbid.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like in comparison to something like House of Wax, almost like the remake, maybe not quite so much, but yeah, it wasn't afraid to go to the places that it went, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. But probably the more slasher-esque, I mean, Child's Play is very, very much a slasher too, but
Oh yeah.
in comparison to like Dead Silence and the other ones we've mentioned as like our must-watches, the least like supernatural kind of tropey doll, killer doll type movie.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate it.
I can too, and like I gotta revisit it soon because I only watched it like once when it was on Shudder, and then I bought the Blu-ray, and I never got down to rewatching it again. So like I gotta do that ASAP. It's just one of those movies that like it's actually worth revisiting to me.
Oh yeah, I think it's a pretty well-known cult classic in the horror community too at this point. If you haven't seen it, again, as with all the movies on this list, we recommend all of them. They are definitely must-watch killer doll movies. And we do just have some honorable mentions as well that we're not really going to get into, but I feel they're kind of important. This subgenre has been a really like, I don't know, just sporadic one. Like, not a lot of stuff comes out in a row, except for I guess like that late 80s, sort of time frame. But we're seeing it again a little bit now. We got The Boy, Annabelle Creation, and then some earlier ones, including Demonic Toys, and then there's a few other weird ones here.
I've never heard of Magic Pin. I watched Trilogy of Terror with that Zuni doll.
Yeah. Apparently that was like the best segment.
That really was, because the other two segments, one of them was like about like a teacher who like pretends to let a student blackmail her with sex, and then she's actually trying to murder him, and like, and I forgot the other one, but this one was probably the most interesting segment. Like,
Okay.
and it's the most iconic just because of that doll and because of what's her face, like at the end with like her teeth and the doll possessed her or whatever.
I think I've seen that picture, yeah.
Yeah.
And plus he's on the cover and everything, like the artwork for this movie. But yeah, Magic from 1978 actually has a young Anthony Hopkins in it. And he's got like this kind of realistic looking doll. And I don't really know much more, but yeah, seeing young Hannibal Lecter is very odd, kind of.
Oh, I gotta watch that then.
Yeah, seems cool. And then Pin from 1988 is about like one of those anatomy dolls that becomes possessed or comes alive or something. Like
Okay, it's stupid. Okay,
I don't know. Apparently, it's actually pretty disturbing.
I bet.
So I know, but pretty unconventional. So that's kind of cool. I might check it out. Came out the same year as Child's Play again. It's probably why you don't know about it.
Oh yeah.
But
it was just like fucking probably underwhelming compared to Child's Play.
yeah, I assume so. I think it was just very different tonally, but I'd have to watch it to see. But yeah, those are our honorable mentions. Go check out all those movies if you have not. I have not seen a few of the honorable mentions, but I know that they're pretty important in the subgenre. Not a very large subgenre of horror, but
Yeah.
it's a thing. But yeah, a lot of the same kind of themes and tropes. And the new Child's Play is actually looking to change that, going into like the robot AI
Yeah.
kind of killer direction, which, you know what? I'm here for it. If it turns out to be pretty interesting, I don't mind if we see more of that. But
Plus Mark Hamill.
yeah, exactly. I think he's going to do a great job.
I think he is. The thing with these newer movies, like remakes and stuff, like even Halloween and Child's Play seems like it might be too, like, two things I found wrong with, like, I think Halloween. Like, the movie itself didn't feel, like, big enough.
Okay.
And then the pacing. I think that might be, like, I hope it's not a problem with this.
I think this movie might be also like an hour and a half or something like that long. So, yeah, I hope it's not too slow. Like, I don't want to see a ton of backstory and all this sad shit so much. We didn't really get like a ton of that in the original, even though we knew that it was like about this single mom who's struggling to kind of make her kid happy. But still, I don't know. I'm excited to see what they do with it. It might suck ass, but you'll know in our next episode, number 67, coming out next weekend. So let's move on from it, guys. Let us know what your favorite killer doll movie is, and we're going to move on into our last segment where we examine a brand new streaming horror film on The Chopping Block. And on this week's Chopping Block Fiends, we have the newest installment in the Into the Dark horror franchise on Hulu, They Come Knocking.
This, honestly, I'm gonna give my little... I'm gonna let you know what I think off the bat. This is one of the better episodes as of recently. I liked Down, but I didn't like the ending. Puka was okay. All of them were okay at best, besides Treehouse, which I fucking hated because... Not because of its message, but it, like, got away from the supernatural element and provided, like, a stupid explanation for it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're going to teach him a lesson with levers and drugs.
Yeah.
Like,
what did you think about I'm Just Fucking With You?
that one was okay, too.
Okay. That was actually the same director as They Come Knocking, Adam Mason.
Okay,
So,
cool. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad because that one, like, sure, thrillers about crazy guys are cool, but I really like the supernatural stuff.
Yeah, pretty different.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty different subgenres. I mean, still horror, but this movie played around with the supernatural entities and unfortunately didn't really get away from all of the paranormal cliches, I would say.
Yeah.
Which kind of played against it. But one thing I did like, they tried to keep it mostly practical. They tried to keep it creepy, but I felt like there were too many long periods of time where nothing really interesting or horrific was happening.
Yeah, it was just like flashbacks for like, just to make us like empathize with like the family and stuff, and like the fucking girls calling her dad Nathan and shit. Like, if you're my kid and you call me by my first name, you're gonna get like an adult ass beating with knuckles.
Yeah, so immediately, pretty much as soon as the story starts, we know that there's some kind of internal family struggle, and mainly from the teenage girl, the daughter.
Yeah, and she resents her father because, I don't want to spoil it, but
yeah,
she resents him.
Yeah, there's an issue. So you can even tell this, I think, from the trailers. You know, really kind of this whole theme of forgiveness and loving your family, learning to love your family, even though you're going through some kind of a struggle, is very prominent in this movie. It's the Father's Day episode, so it kind of features the father very prominently.
He didn't get like shit on, and like they didn't like. He was like mainly like the one going like through all the stuff because he had to deal with a wife with cancer. He had to deal with his daughters getting kidnapped by ghost people. He had to deal with the guilt from his past and the grief. And that's what this is. This is basically like Hills Have Eyes scenario. Hey, let's go to the middle of nowhere. It's basically Hills Have Eyes meets the Babadook, if you can, you can think about that. Because they're in an RV in the middle of nowhere. And instead of getting attacked by hillbillies, they're getting attacked by like manifestations of like grief and guilt.
Yeah, so this movie actually kind of also explores the creepypasta of the black-eyed children. And there's the whole thing is like this the black-eyed people, that it's these entities who resemble people, usually kids, who actually have some kind of a vampiric resemblance almost. There's this very common conception that, they also have to be invited into a place.
Yeah, I noticed that. I forgot all about that. When he invited them into the truck, come in here, you little bastards. And then
so I mean, if you read any of the lore, really, this movie actually kind of takes on a lot of it, which is pretty interesting. So if you're into like creepypasta, cryptozoology, any of that kind of weird shit, which I'm pretty into it, I like seeing that kind of stuff, even though a lot of the movies are really bad. This wasn't one of the worst ones. I mean, I think they could have done more with that whole concept, but it was okay.
Yeah, I felt like it was okay too. I just really liked the more like actual moments where we actually see like the entities and like the little black-eyed kids, and like I felt like it was trying to be too emotional for like a movie we've seen like a few times. You know what I mean? We've all seen the movie where like, there's loss in the family, someone dies in the family and then there's struggle and then they overcome, and it's like, would have been kind of cool if they didn't overcome,
Yeah, I suppose so. But we've seen a lot of those kind of movies too, like the No Hope movies that we always talked about. So, not saying really kind of what happens or anything like that, but all right, what's your final verdict for They Come Knocking?
Oh, it's not chopped.
Okay. Yeah, I will say it's not the best. I think I gave it like 2.5 stars out of 5. I mean, I liked it, I enjoyed it, but it didn't really do anything that different. It was cool that they went with a relatively newer creepypasta, at least to cinema. But there were a lot of, narrative, like structural familiarities to a lot of other movies, a lot of cliches and tropes and stuff like that, like stupid actions by the characters that just didn't need to happen.
Yeah,
shit like that.
A lot of this is like, if this happened in real life, like there's no way people would have reacted the way that these people did. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
just like the silence. I think it was like, it's like, yo, bro, people don't act like this.
Right. So, guys, that's our recommendation right there. Go check it out. Especially if you've seen any of the recent Into the Dark movies. I think you'll probably enjoy this one. So let us know what you think about it if you do watch it. You can contact us on all of our social media. We have Facebook and Instagram where you can find us if you type in Grave Discussions. And you can find us on Twitter at GraveDiscSRD. We also have a website, gravediscussions.net.
Yes, and make sure you tune in next week for episode 67, where we discuss the new Child's Play and I juggle and swallow fire.
Ooh.
On Grave Discussions.
This has been an SRD production.